Grade class, let's go ahead and get on 2-4's homework. I'm going to do all the odd ones, you have the even ones. Write the fraction or mixed number as a decimal. This is 5 over 16. So this is really 5 divided by 16. 16 doesn't go into 5, but I know the decimal is right there. So I can put a 0 here, and I can say 16 goes into 5 3 times. That gives me 48. Sorry for the messiness. That leaves me 2 left over. Now, 16 doesn't go into 2, but it does go into 20. So I could put a 1 there. Leaves me 4 left over. 16 goes into this 2 times, 32. Leaving me 8. And once again, I can say 16 goes into 80. Let's see. I'm wondering if it goes into it 6 times. I'm going to check really here. No, it won't be 6. I take that back. Let's find out here. Maybe 5. I'm thinking maybe 5. Let's try 5. That'll give me a 0 with a 3. Hey, look at that. So that's perfect. So that's going to give me 0.3125. That's my answer. All right, let's go over to number 3. It says 6 and 8 over 11. I know I can put the 6 in front because that 6 represents a whole number. I could just take 8 and divide it by 11. I'm going to go ahead and look at my calculator here. 8 divided by 11 gives me 727272. It repeats forever. So I can write that as 72 and then put a line over it showing that that number goes on forever, repeating. All right, let's go to number 5. If we look at number 5, we see that we're finding the area of a trapezoid. The formula for a trapezoid is 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height. All right, let's fill in the blanks over here. If I use this formula over here, I can see that I've got, let's see, well, there's 1/2. Base is 10, base 1. It says plus base 2, that's the top up here. And then times the height, and the height is 6. All right, let's work this. I got 10 plus 2 is 12. So now this is 12 times 1/2. 1/2 of 12 is 6. Now I have 6 times 6, that's 36. So my answer will be 36 inches squared. Let's go to number 7. This time my formula will be 1/2. My base 1 is 9. My base 2 is 13. Times the height is 11. 9 plus 13 is 22. 1/2 of 22 is 11. I have 11 times 11. That's 121. So this is going to be 121 feet square. All right, let's go ahead and go to number 9. Write a multiplication expression represented by the area model. When I look at this, I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 by 10, so there's 100 here. So this purple represents 7 out of that 100. So that would be 0.7 for 70% of this. right? We know that 70% as a decimal is my decimal moved over 2 spots, leaving it as 0.7. That makes this light blue 0.5. And you can see that's 50% of it is blue, right? And once again, we move that decimal over 2 spots, makes it 0.5. Now we're going to have to go ahead and, says write a multiplication expression. 0.7 times 0.5 is going to be equal to 0.35. So this is equal to 0.35. Let's go down to number 11. Without multiplying, tell whether the value of the expression is positive or negative. Remember I showed you in class, whenever you're doing multiplication problems, a negative times a negative is a positive, positive times a negative is a negative. You can use Mr. Dorito head like I taught in class if you want. And whenever you want to figure out which is which, let's see, a negative times a negative equals a positive. A negative times a positive equals a negative. So let's look at this one. We have a positive times a negative. That tells me everything I need to know. Because a positive times a negative is a negative. So this answer will be negative. Explaining the reasoning, a positive times a negative equals a negative. Guess I can type that out quicker. All right, let's move on. Going to number 13, it says find the product. These are pretty easy. I know that 4 times 5 is always 20. This one is 2 times a negative 6. A positive times a negative is a negative, and 2 times 6 is 12. This is negative 6 to the second power. This is equal to negative 6 times negative 6. Remember, this means this number multiplied to itself this many times. Well, negative times a negative is a positive, and 6 times 6 is 36. So our answer is 36. Number 19. We have 14 times negative 2. A positive times a negative is a negative, and 14 times 2 is 28. And we have number 21, negative 9 to the second power. Now remember, there was a reason this parentheses was around this negative sign. If it's not there, that exponent of 2 is only applicable to the 9. So this is going to start off negative, and this is going to be 9 times 9. 9 times 9 is 81. So naturally, this will be negative 81. Number 23, find the product, write fractions in simplest forms. Okay, this time we're dealing with rational numbers, okay, but we're still multiplying. The product means we multiply across. So I have a negative times a negative, that's going to give us a positive. I have 1 times 4, that's 4. We have 4 times 3, that's 12. Both of these are divisible by 4. I'm really only dividing by 1 because 4 divided by 4 is 1. This is going to be equal to 1 over, well, 12 divided by 4 is 3. We also could have solved it by realizing these two here, 4 and 3, can be reduced. I can go ahead and scratch them out because they're both divisible by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, 4 divided by 4 is 1. Now I have negative 1 times a negative 1, that's 1, and 1 times 3 is 3. Either way, you can do this. Number 25, a negative times a negative, that's a positive. All right, I have to turn this into a fraction, and I'll have to turn this into a full, what's it, they call that, an improper fraction by going around the world. 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So this is going to be turned to negative 5 over 4. So now I have negative 5 over 4 times negative 2 over 1. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 4 is 4. I can reduce these both by dividing by 2. That's going to equal 5 over 2. All right, let's try number 27. We got two decimals here. Remember our rule for decimals. Multiply them together, but we have to remember to move those exponents over. So I know 4 times 3 will give me 12. That's not a problem. And I know that a positive times a negative will give me a negative. But I do see there's 1, 2, 3 place marks for my decimal, which means I have to move my decimal 1, 2, 3, which means I'll have to put a 0 here. This would be negative 0, 12, 0, 1, 2. All right, let's go on and go to number 29. And I have 3 numbers multiplied to each other with an exponent. Remember, we're following PEMDAS. When I do parentheses are first, so I'm going to have to do what's in here first. There's nothing I can combine in either one of these parentheses. So I'm going to exponents. This exponent is here. It applies to this. So now I'm going to turn this to negative 8 times 0.09. This is negative 0.5 times negative 0.5. Well, negative times a negative is a positive, and 0.5 times 0.5 is 0.25. This will get multiplied to 0.09, and this will get multiplied to negative 8. Right, I know that 8 times 9 is 72, and a positive times a negative is a negative. I know I have 2 place marks here for this decimal, so I'm going to have to go back 2, and let's make this negative 0.72, and now I'm going to multiply that to negative or 0.25. I'm going to use my calculator for this one. Getting a little bored of working these out. I've got negative 0.72, 0.72 times 0.25 gives me 0.18. So I know this is 0.18. I know that I multiplied, which means I have to go ahead and take all of these exponents. Okay, 0.72 times 0.25, 0.18, right? So a negative times a positive is a negative. This would be negative 0.10. Okay? Number 31 is next. We've got negative 1 2/3 to the third power. So this is like equal to negative 1 2/3 times negative 1 2/3 times negative 1 2/3. Well, 2/3 can be turned into an improper fraction. So 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. So this is going to be equal to 5 over 3. Well, now that means I have 5 over 3 times 5 over 3, excuse me, negative 5 over 3 times negative 5 over 3 times negative 5 over 3. All right, a negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So I know this is going to be a negative answer. I also know 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5 is 125. I know 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3, well, that's going to be 27. So my answer is negative 125 over 27. But remember, it says put it in simplest form. So I've got to go ahead and take 125 and divide it by 27. Oops, I'm going to put 25. 125 divided by 27. That's going to be equal to 0.0074, 0074, 0074. Wow. So as a decimal, this is a repeating number. 0.0074. I'm going to double check this just because it really having a hard time feeling this is the right answer. I don't think it's correct. We took 25, look at that, 25 divided by 125. That was exactly the wrong thing to do. Glad I caught it. I'm glad it didn't make any sense to me, or I wouldn't have caught it. See, the reason it didn't make sense is with the top number being bigger, I should have a whole number in front. So let's try this again. 125 divided by 27. There we go. 4.629. 4.629. All right, so that tells me I'm going to have 4 that it goes into, right? So that's, remember, we want to write this as a fraction. It says write fractions in simplest form. That means I have 629 out of 1,000 left over. Wow. Okay, how can I write this as this fraction though? Well, I know that I'm going to have something left over, and I know that I'm going to multiply 27 to 4 to find out. 27 times 4 gives me 108. So now I have to take 125 and minus 108. This is going to give me, borrowing one here, 17. So the answer to this would be 4 and 17 over 27. For those of you confused, if I wrote this out as a division problem, 125 divided by 17, or 27, excuse me, I would definitely get a 4 up here. And after I did, I would have 108. I would be subtracting this and getting 17, and that would be my remainder. Okay, let's go to number 33. Your friend evaluates expression. Is your friend correct? Well, he says a negative times a negative is a negative. He's absolutely wrong. A negative times a negative will be a positive. Don't even have to do any work. No, because a negative times a negative is a positive. All right, let's see if you even got the number right. Well, we would get 2.2 and multiply it to 3.7. Looks like you got the number right. You just got the sign in front of it wrong. All right. Let's see. So the answer should be 8.14. All right. Let's go on to number 35. This one says find the product. I'm multiplying these together. Write the fractions in simplest form. Well, I know positive times a negative is a negative. So this is going to be 4 times 3, negative 12. Now I have to take negative 12 and multiply it to 25. Uh, we could do this, or I could just rearrange these numbers a bit. I know that 4 times 25 is 100, and 100 times 3 is 300. So that means these are definitely going to equal negative 300. Let's check it in the calculator, see if I'm right. 4 times 3 times 25 equals 300. All right. Let's try number 37. Positive, positive, negative. We're all multiplying, so positive times a positive is a positive. Positive times a negative is a negative. No, my answer will be negative. Now let's start with our fractions first. I can do this really easy because I can rearrange these numbers. I put negative 5 over here since we're multiplying with the community property of multiplication, and multiply it to 1 over 5. Well, I know negative 5 is really 5 over 1. So now I've got 5 times 1 and 5 times 1. That's going to leave me 5 over 5. So this is going to equal negative 1. Now I have negative 1 times, don't forget, we had 3 over 8 left over. So we have times 3 over 8 down here. Anytime thing times 1 is itself, so my answer will be 3 over 8. And a positive times a negative is a negative, so this is a negative 3 over 8. Let's go to 39. Got a negative times a positive times a positive. That means my answer will be a negative for sure. I have to take all these, and I'm just going to be kind of lazy, and I'm sure some of you are already going to figure this out. I'm going to take 17.2. I'm going to multiply it to 2.5. I'm going to multiply it to 4. It's really that easy. 172. And it's going to be a negative answer. I could have figured this out by taking 4 times 2.5. That would have gave me 10. And when I did that, 10 times any number with a decimal just moves the decimal over 1. All right? Let's try number 41. Are there any tricks over here we can go ahead and use? I'm just wondering, now that we've found so many before. All this is multiplication, so I'm allowed to move these around again. I can go ahead and take this and bring it to the front over here. If I make this negative 9 over 4 times negative 2/3, and then times negative, they're all negatives, okay? 5 over 7. So I can go ahead and reduce these because 3 goes in the 9. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. I can also take the 4 and 2 and reduce. I know that 2 goes into 4 twice. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. Now we have some pretty small numbers here to play with. All right, so let's start with the bottom. 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 7 is 14. Now we'll start with the top. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 5 is 15. Now remember, a negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a negative is a negative. But to put this in simplest form, I see 15 is bigger than 14 by 1. So my answer would be negative 1 and 1 over 14. That's a mixed number. That's proper. All right, we're going to number 43. Which fraction is equivalent to this over here? Well, I got to solve this over here first. And again, I can rearrange this because it's all multiplication. I could take the negative 8 over 9, multiply it to the 3/4, then multiply it to 7 over 8. I know that 8 and 4 are both divisible by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. I know 9 and 3 are both divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now I've got much smaller numbers. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 7, that's 14. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 8 is 24. I know both of these are divisible by 2. 14 divided by 2 equals 7. 24 divided by 2 equals 12. So this is really 7 over 12. Let's not forget our negatives. We had a negative here in front of 3/4. We had a negative over here in front of 8 over 9. A negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a positive is a positive. So my answer should be 7 over 12. Let's find out. Got negative 7 over 12. That's absolutely wrong. We got negative 7 over 24. That's incorrect. We got 7 over 24. That's incorrect. And now we have 7 over 12. That is our answer. Let's go to number 45. Find the next two numbers in the pattern. I have to see what is happening to the number in order to see what the pattern is, okay? So what am I doing to 2/3 to get to 1/3? Well, I got negative 2/3, and I've got 1/3. I could just take 1/3 and divide it by negative 2/3. That'll tell me what's happened. That'll tell me what to multiply negative 2/3 to. All right, so when I have a fraction divided by a fraction, I'm going to go ahead and do keep, change, flip. So that gives me 1/3, right? We keep the first one the same. We change from division to multiplication, and then we take this and turn it upside down to make it 3 over 2, and we do know that it's negative. Now I can reduce these numbers here. They're both 3, and make them 1, because they're both divisible by 3. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1, and 1 times 2 is a half. Looks like I'm multiplying everything to negative 1/2. So all I have to do says find the next two numbers. I'll take this 1 over 12, and I'm going to multiply it to negative 1/2. So my next number is going to be, well, negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. And 12 times 2 is 24. So my first number here is going to be negative 1 over 24. But remember, it asks for the next two numbers. So once again, I'll have to multiply this to negative 1/2. A negative times a negative equals a positive, and 1 times 1 is 1. And 24 times 2 is 48. So this is 1 over 48. So the next two numbers will be negative 1 over 24 and positive 1 over 48. Let's try that same thing with number 47. This is going to be 27.44, and that's 19.6. So I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator this time, save me a little time. 19.6 divided by 27.44. And I'm sorry, I accidentally put 9.6, so I'm going to have to start over here. 19.6 divided by 27.44. That's going to equal, wow, look at that crazy number. It looks like 714,285 repeating. Yeah, that's what I see it doing, repeating. So I'm multiplying everything to this number. So I can take this first, and wow, this is tough. I've got a good decimal here, but I need a fraction to go ahead and figure this out, I think. Oh, I could take this number here, and this is going to be strange, so follow along, and multiply it to negative 10. So a positive times a negative is a negative. I'll just multiply it to 10. All right, and does it say to round up? No, it doesn't. So that tells me there must be a repeating pattern here. Yep, there we go. 142,857, 142,857. So this is 7.142,857. 1428 57. Looks like that repeats over and over again, right? 142857, 142857. So I can put a line over the 142857, showing that it repeats. Now, remember, it does say the next two numbers. So now I've got to take that number and multiply it to the numbers that I divided before. Ooh, that's going to be a handful. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to that original answer I got. That was 19.6 divided by 27.44. That gave us our answer. Now we're going to multiply it to, wow. Now you can see what I was saying about this. So I think the better thing I could do is take the answer that I have right here, and now I'm going to multiply it, and I'm going to put in parentheses here. It's the only way I can do this. Negative 19, so that'd be 19.6 times this would be 27.44. And so I believe our answer is going to be, so I want to make sure I do this right. We took the answer to this, and then we multiplied it to the percentage of it. I'm thinking I should get 384.16. You know, after looking closely at this, I'm thinking it can't be that. I must have done something wrong. Let me check my calculator. Ah, there it is. I multiplied. Remember at the beginning we divided. So I'm going to have to do this over again. So I'm going to have to take 19.6 divided by 27.44. Once I got that answer, that was the next answer. I'm going to have to multiply that and then put in parentheses 19.6 divided by 27.44. Then put my parentheses and then press equal. Ah, there we go. It should have been a smaller number. So I got 51, 510. Oh boy, this is a big old number. I'm just going to round this up because I don't see a pattern here. So I'm going to say 510204. 10510 204, I believe. I'm just going to round it up because there's just no way to get this answer written down. It's an irrational number. 204 08163. Yeah, I don't see it repeating to go ahead and make it into a fraction. So yeah, we're just going to round it there and call it a day. Those are the next two numbers on your list. All right, let's go down to number 49. A 14.5 gallon gasoline tank is 3/4 full. Okay, so we got 14.5 gallons. That's 3/4 of that. How many gallons will it take to fill the tank? Well, the tank is going to have one full tank, right? So how many gallons will that be? We cross multiply. This is going to be equal to 14.5 times 1 That's going to equal 3/4. And what we're trying to find is X. So that'll be X. Well, we could just put G for gallons in this case. All right, when I do this, anything times 1 is itself. And I had to pause for a second to look at this carefully, and I realized I made a little boo-boo because I misread it. It says here that the tank is a 14.5 gallon tank, and it is 3/4 full. So it doesn't have 14.5 in it right now. I have to change this up, and I apologize for that. I wanted to double check it, and I realize now that this 3/4 then represents the 3/4, and I want to know how many gallons 3/4 has. If it's one tank, that means the 1 should be over here. So one tank has 14.5 gallons, and we're going to multiply that to G over 3/4 because it's 3/4 gallon, right? Yes, 3/4 full, and this is totally 100% full. So this is actually going to be 14.5 times 3/4. That has to equal one tank's for 1 tank's gallon. So we'll just put whatever G is. All right, so how many gallons it would be at 3/4 tank. So let's see, this is going to be 14.5 times 3/4. I can make 3/4 into 7.5 if I want it, right? Or I could turn 14.5 into a fraction, which would be 14 1/2. Okay. Now I have to turn this into an improper fraction. 14 times 2 is 28. And 28 plus 1 is 29. So this is 29 over 2 times 3/4. All right. See, 29 times 3. Let's see, 29 times 3. That's 7, 2, 6, 7, 8, 87. So it's going to equal 87 over 2 times 4 is 8. Now I have to see how many times 8 goes into this. It almost goes into it perfectly 11 times if this was 88. So this tells me this is going to be 10 and 7 over 8 gallons. All right. Let's go to number 51. My 2 fractions whose product is this. Remember, the product is this. That means when I multiply them together, it's going to get this. I could say that 1/5 times 3/1, right? Or negative 1/5 times 3/1. Those 2 fractions will give me this. Because -1 times 3 is -3, and 5 times 1 is 5. Let's go to number 53. Your friend is training for a 13.1 mile race. Your friend currently runs 1 mile in 72 or 7.2 minutes. Your friend's goal is to run the race in 94 minutes. Wow. Okay. Will your friend meet their goal? Okay, that's a weird way of putting that sentence. And it says and here's the answer. I got to tell you, I just realized we're going at about 40 minutes here, and that's way too much time and homework. We're stopping right here at 53. Ignore all the rest of them. I'll put up on the board that your homework is from 1 to 53. That'll give you about 25 problems after watching the video. All right, have a great day, and I'll see you in class for grading.